Okay, it says here, why is this relevant? Hodas Yerushalayim. The Gemara here in really in Megillah says there's certain passages in the Torah that when you read them, or in the Navi, you shouldn't read the Targum. It used to be assumed that if you read the Torah or the Navi, you also read the Targum along with it. Stop after every pasuk, and there's a guy there with the Targum Yonasan and the Targum Onkelos, and he reads it out loud for everybody, so you understand what they said, right? So the Gemara has a list of that which is not Targumed, and that which you would have had a Havamina to leave off the Targum because it's a little bit, I guess, not fit for public consumption. And Kamash Malan, you read it out loud. You read the Targum out loud for everybody so they understood what was read there. Now, there are many different minhagim about what were the Haftarahs once upon a time. If there was a 3-year cycle that used to exist, and there's different far from places that the annual cycle, you'll have many different minhagei Haftarahs out there, right? And they are still preserved in a lot of the Chumashim. See what Rabbi Duker has published about this. It's his favorite topic to research. All the different minhagim of Haftarahs that existed. And one of them was Hodas Yerushalayim. What's Hodas Yerushalayim? We're going to see it in a minute. The Gemara says, yeah, it's kind of rare. And Rambam says it is a Haftarah, but it's read a lot less. What does the Gemara saying? Hodath Yerushalayim eth tuavotheha. That's how the Navi was told by God. Go tell Jerusalem, or notify Jerusalem of all of her. Jerusalem is personified as a wayward wife, okay, and all of her abominations. Nikra umitargem, okay, meet with a pirik and a dot and the tough. Okay, it is read in public as a haftorah sometimes, and the Targum is read. Pshita, no, isn't that obvious? It's part of the Navi. Aren't you supposed to translate it? No. La'afuke mi de Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer would say, no, don't read it. Tanya, it says in the Brisa, Ma'aseh ba'adam echad shaya korei lemala. Okay, may Rabbi Eliezer. This man was reading the Navi on top of Rabbi Eliezer, means he was on, I guess, on the beamer or something. And what section did he read? Because they used to have a choice of what haftorah to read. There was a lot of leeway. Right? Even in Ramah's times, there was a chassan, so they canceled the haftarah. They read Sosasis, for example. Okay. Bodath Yerushalayim eth tuavotheha. That was what he chose. It fits the parsha, so we read it. Omar lo, Rabbi Eliezer said to him, Ad shata bodek betavoth Yerushalayim. Before you start telling us about Jerusalem's abominations, all the sins that the people of Jerusalem committed, say uvdok betavoth imecha, or imecha. Go see, go look back. Maybe your mother's been up to something herself. Like you're basically accusing Jerusalem of this. Your mom, okay? And badku acharav matzu bo shemetz psul. And they looked into this guy. And it turns out, yeah, he had a little something. Something was off about his lineage through his mother, okay? Which is a nice way of saying it. So basically, Rabbi Eliezer's opinion is that this section of the Navi is actually kind of harsh and should not be used as a haftarah, especially if people are understanding what it means. There are some passages in Tanakh that are kind of explicit, and there's a reason. If it was good enough for the Navi, then who are we to say that it should not be read and understood? It's Torah, and sometimes the shock value is part of the message to help you understand why it is so wrong of what they did. Okay, Shir HaShirim, for example, Art Scroll did not even translate it literally. Why? Because there's some stuff there that can actually seem kind of explicit. I think it's just PG-13, but still, there are things that they felt too squeamish about or too prudish about. Okay, I don't think you should be more prudish than Chazal, though. So let's open it up here. What is this talking about? This is the 16th parak, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on one second, and you'll see why it is. For those at home, I put over here the translation. Normally I translate as I go, but I don't want to subject everybody to my having running translation. So I have here the Machon Mamre version. By the way, Machon Mamre chose one of the JPS translations. I wonder why. Maybe because it was free? I would have changed it around a little bit. Okay, not my favorite translation, but it's pretty good. It gets the job done. So, are you familiar with this chapter in Yechezkel? You'll see why this is relevant soon. Okay, so here the Navi is told to remind Jerusalem. In this case, it's referring to the people who were in charge of Jerusalem, the big shots, who ruined everything. Why? What was the problem that led up to the destruction of the first temple? Corruption involving Avodah Zarah. Now, very few Jews have actually said, you know what, I really believe in those foreign gods, the gods of the Egyptians and the Assyrians. they must be the ones who are really calling the shots here, and that's why I want to worship them, right? Yeah, they did it. It's like, it was a way to, yeah, or a way to uh, find favor, kiss up to foreign powers, the foreign superpowers, the Assyrians, the Egyptians at the time, even the Babylonians. That's why they were doing it. Okay. Well, they wanted rain. Okay. Well, that's why they worship Baal. Okay. But now we're not talking about Baal worship. We're talking about specifically in this chapter that the big shots in Jerusalem, the royal class and the priestly class, were the ones who had the power, were engaging in this, I guess, well, I don't know the proper word for this thing. Hold on, am I still connected? Yeah, we're still connected. They were trying to basically curry favor and try to buy their ways into what was considered higher society and higher influence in the global sphere. Okay, so they wanted to be like the Egyptians. We're like the Egyptians who are, they have their old pantheon, they worship them. But why the Egyptians and the Assyrians specifically? Because they're the ones who were powerful at the time leading up to the Babylonian conquest. Suddenly the Babylonians came and they took over the Assyrians first, right? And then they were making their plans, cross through the land of Israel and take care of Egypt. Egypt would be like the big conquest, which eventually Nebuchadnezzar got, right? So as a lot of alliances were being made. There was actually a choice. Kings of Israel and Yehuda sometimes had to say, whom, if anybody, do I want to align myself with? Okay. Do I want to be on the Assyrian side of this conflict? Do I want to be on the Egyptian side? We've discussed this before. Achaz, for example, threw in his lot with whom? The Assyrians. The Assyrians had beaten the Arameans and the 10 tribes, basically took them both into Golos, right? So Achaz like, I'm all for the Assyrians. I'm going to turn the temple into an Assyrian place of worship. I'm going to copy their temple, bring in their idols and their type of altar, and I'll have my Kohanim perform a service in God's temple in Jerusalem like the Assyrians do, and like that temple I found in Damascus, right? And there are people who said, "Oh, we want to be like the Egyptians." Okay, the Egyptians have always been successful and barely conquered at all. Okay? And we have roots in Egypt, so let's be like the Egyptians. And that's what the Navi here says. He says that God compares Israel to a foundling. He found a child abandoned in the desert. Okay. And God took in this child and he raised her and made her beautiful. Revava katzemech hasadeh netatich, right? He made her into, I guess, this beautiful matron and a model. Okay. You're familiar. You should read the entire pasuk. And God dressed her nicely, gave her all sorts of jewelry, made her beautiful, and fed her all sorts of fine foods. Okay. That means God adopted the Jewish people and made them highly successful. Okay. Wow. I didn't know that this part was done in the Daidodu translation. He translates, thus wast thou decked with gold and silver, and thy raiment was of fine linen and silk and richly woven work. Okay. And then it says, you gained a good reputation. Okay. You became known as beautiful among the Goyim. Tikalilhu, yeah, it was actually perfect, all around. And eventually they start trusting in their beauty. Am Yisrael became too comfortable with this. Okay? Tizni. Whenever Am Yisrael is compared to a woman who strays and plays the harlot, as they say, that means idolatry. Am Yisrael worshiping idols, abandoning God, is like a woman running after other men, not her husband. Right? That's the comparison throughout Chazal, throughout the Navi. It's even, they use the same verb. Okay. Asher atem zonim al chariham. You stray after your eyes. The zonim, that the verb is znut. Okay. Harlotry. So it says here, eventually, she took on paramours. Okay. And she's misusing all the beautiful things, the beautiful raiment and riches and fine food that God gave Israel, which are all allegories or part of this one big allegory. And she's sharing it with her lovers. And also, by the way, they had children. God says, we had children together. Okay, my love. We're the children, but you use those children, you sacrifice them to be devoured. That's a little bit explicit because he's complained that they were practicing child sacrifice in the times leading up to the destruction of the first temple. Yirmiyahu Navi mentions that. There's the Tofet and the Tofteh. Okay, Gambit Behem Yisrafu Va'esh. it's mentioned that one of the worst things the Canaanim invented was human sacrifice, right? Child sacrifice. It says, don't do that. But what does it say in the Yirmiyahu and Sefer Malachim? Eventually, had some of the upper class, they started doing that. Okay, so this is less an allegory over here and more explicit. Okay, it's actually literally true. So it says that Jerusalem was straying after all these abominations, the Egyptian ones. It says here, I'll read the pasuk over here. Okay. What Tiznio b'nei Mitzrayim she'enayach gidlei basar, what tarbiyat tazuseit lachiseni. I'll read you the translation. Thou hast also played the harlot with the Egyptians, thy neighbors, great of flesh, and hast multiplied thy harlotry to provoke me. Okay. He also mentions Ashur over here. Okay. He mentions Vatiznio b'nei Ashur, mibilti sovatech, Vatiznim v'gam lo savat. Thou hast played the harlot also with the Assyrians, without having enough. Ye, thou hast played the harlot with them, and yet thou wast not satisfied. You also ran after Canaani gods. El Eretz Canaan Kastima. Okay. Canaani gods, even Kastima, that's Babylonian gods. Okay. They're Jews who are looking to find all sorts of foreign worship. We want to be like the Egyptians because they're the ones who are in charge. We want to be like those Babylonians. Oh, good. When did they copy the Canaanim? They're basically copying Canaani gods for most of history. Whenever Jews backslide, in time of Shoftim, what were they worshiping? At least the very few. They're worshiping Baal, local gods. Even until Achav's time, the problem was adopting local gods. By the time we get to later First Temple times, now the Jews are expanding. They want to, like I said, Assyrian gods. Even Moabite gods and Ammonite gods, those are more local. We've known about them. They've been around since Avram Avinu's time almost. Well, Avram Avinu was before Lot, but you understand Chemosh and the rest of them in Molech, those are ancient. Now we're looking beyond. Just Canaani gods aren't good enough. We want, to expand ourselves. We want to hear about Nevo and Baal and Ra and the rest of them. Okay, so it says here, this is what they're doing. So what happened? What was the fitting punishment for this? Okay, Am Yisrael, at least the people in charge, are running after these foreign gods. They want to be like the Egyptians. By the way, when you become like an Egyptian, you want to worship the Egyptian gods, you adopt their ideology, right? Do like the Egyptians do in every way, even dress like them. So the punishment was, that's what God says, because thy filthiness was poured out and thy nakedness uncovered through thy harlotries with thy lovers, and because of all the idols of thy abominations, and for the blood of thy children, thou didst give unto them, caused your sons to die. The Egyptians demanded that you kill your own children or you let your youngsters die. So you did it, right? Therefore, behold, I'll gather all thy lovers, all those Egyptians and the Assyrians and the rest of them, unto whom thou hast been pleasant, and all of them that thou hast loved, with all of them that thou hast hated, I will even gather them against thee from every side, and will uncover thy nakedness unto them, that they may see all thy nakedness. Okay, now they're going to become your enemies. Okay, you think you can kiss up to America and Europe? They're going to turn against you. Sorry, Assyria and Egypt. Assyria and Egypt mean Europe and America today. And I will judge thee as women that break wedlock and shed blood are judged. And I will break upon thee thy blood, the blood of fury and jealousy. I will also give thee into their hand, and they shall throw down thine eminent place, and break down thy lofty places. They shall strip thee of thy clothes, and take thy fair jewels, and they shall leave thee naked and bare. They shall also bring up an assembly against thee, and they shall stone thee with stones, and thrust thee through with their swords. They'll burn your house with the fire, and the rest. Okay? Pretty bad stuff. So when did this happen? What happened today?
Last year.
It's happening, but now it intensified. Before this past year, you hear people saying the masses, Israel this, genocide that, down with BBs, it's so terrible, right? Today they issued arrest warrants for Gallant and Bibi. Magia lahem, especially Gallant, and especially Bibi. You know why? Because all day long, like I said before, Gallant especially has said, he's trying to be the best European American he can be. He is an idolater by Yechezkel standards. He has totally cast his lot with them. He wants to be just like the Americans. He wants to be a good American. And he is whoring after them. He's sacrificed the lives of Jewish young men, okay, for the sake of just to try to show, look, America, how great I am at doing your bidding. And there are many Jews here in Eretz Yisrael, and Bibi also, to a certain extent, Okay, just do what the Americans say. And the ones who are whoring after Europe are the leftists, right? Destroy their country. They basically their avodah zarah doesn't have an idol like a Baal, but their avodah zarah and their ideology is the avodah zarah of European leftism. And they've given everything to them. They want to be totally like one of them. And you know what happened today? Now they said, you're a criminal. And if you tried even to leave your country, we'll arrest you. We'll put you on trial for genociding. You still weren't good enough. No matter how much you tried to whore after these Assyrians and these Egyptians, these Americans and these Europeans, they still don't like you. And like the Navi says, they're basically showing it now. They want to, strip you naked, okay, lay you bare and disgrace you. That's what they're wanting to do. So they've said it outright. Okay, we'll see. And I think they were warned about this. Gallant, the worst thing that could have happened to him is that he couldn't take vacations in places without fear of getting arrested for, whatever it is he did. Okay. Problem is he was not doing what he was supposed to. He didn't do a genocide, and they're punishing him for doing so. Next time, if you're gonna do the time, might as well do the crime. Next time, defeat your enemies. You're in charge of a Jewish army. Use that Jewish army to destroy the enemy, and not try to commit child sacrifice. Okay. And kidnapping, by the way. And Bibi to a certain extent, because he's allowed this all this time. So basically, the words of the prophet are true forever. Okay, davar echad bidvarecha lo yashuv reikam. It's come true today. So there you go. You have to understand what the Navi is talking about, and it's really a darn shame what's happened. We have to escape. Ashur lo yushienu, asus lo nirkav. The Navim were talking about this for hundreds of years. You can't rely on the foreign powers. They're not going to help you when the time comes. They'll make all sorts of promises and they're not there. I remember speaking at a yeshiva where they had some students who said, we can't do that. We've made promises to the Americans. We can't do that. We have a treaty with the Jordanians. If we do that, that'll start World War III. You know what? You don't need to provoke the Goyim into starting World War III. They're going to do it themselves. They'll attack you, and that's what people keep telling me. How many people sent me a message today saying it's happening with Russia and all that? Okay, Biden's provoking Russia. They want World War III to start. First of all, I think it already started years ago. Okay, so we're in just the warm ups, but it's already happened. We're just screaming toward it, and I hope it'll stop. But who knows? Either way, they don't need an excuse. We didn't start World War I. We didn't start World War II. We didn't do any of these things. Anything they accuse us of, they did it. Our problem is we did not keep the Torah and do what we were supposed to do. Our problem is we didn't destroy our enemies. Our problem is, we didn't read enough Sefer Yechezkel before the fact, because we wouldn't have gotten into this mess. Our problem is that we've supported. Someone said, they were very happy. They had a Suda Sodoya here after the elections. Bibi formed a right-wing government with Haredi parties. There are people, neighbors celebrating it. I said, what are you people crazy? You're so happy? Like, what has Bibi with Haredi parties done? Have they built the Beis HaMikdash? Have they created more yeshuvim? Have they done anything in any way that's really good for Am Yisrael, except for play this game of funding for Haredi institutions? And even that, they don't do so well. Okay? So I don't know what people are celebrating. I'm not for this. They don't represent me. I hope to see people replaced. Okay? Just they should all retire. But I didn't want to see, I don't want to see Jewish leaders taken away as like imprisoned in foreign countries. Why? Because that's one of the last punishments of the Torah. Hashem will take your king to a land, the king that you placed upon yourself. Why does it say that? The Malkacha Asher Tasim Alecha. Okay, the king you placed on you, he'll be taken away to Gullus. That's part of the punishment, right? So Mepharshim ask, why the king you placed upon yourself? It can't just be king. So the answer is, your illegitimate king will be taken into Gullus. Okay, only certain kings enjoy legitimacy, or whoever is, the stand-in for the king, the prime minister, the president, whoever, whatever you call him, it doesn't really matter. The guy in charge will be taken into Gullus and imprisoned. Okay, why? That's part of the punishment. That happened to Tzidkiyahu. That happened to Hoshea ben Elah. That happened to others. Okay, you get imprisoned and taken away. So that's a tochacha for the rest of us. We hope that Hashem would be merciful and just send them out to pasture, and we can replace them with someone legitimate. But if it's come to this point that they are forcibly removed or imprisoned and sent to some foreign country to stand trial, who put Tzidkiyahu HaMelech on trial, by the way? Nebuchadnezzar. okay, and took him away to prison. He also threw his uncle. Well, it wasn't his uncle; it was his nephew. Threw his nephew Yoachin into prison also, without even trial. Okay, so when they're threatening to put Jewish leaders, even despite their illegitimacy, in jail and to try them, that's a part of the Tochav coming true. Okay, just like when we have war and pestilence affect us. We had a pestilence recently, a few years ago. Now we have a war. We have to know these are signs from God to repent. It's not a good thing that they're happening. If we were actually doing what we're supposed to do, we would not be experiencing war. We wouldn't have to fight a war. Okay, so take it to heart.